A mute Korean mafia boss struggled to order a simple coffee until a black waitress asked his order in sign language. And the mute Korean mafia boss realized fate had found him. So Ji-hoon had learned to live with silence. Not the peaceful kind that comes from quiet rooms or empty streets, but the suffocating silence of a voice that would never come. The doctors called it selective mutism, triggered by childhood trauma. His father called it weakness. The underworld called it legend. The silent dragon who commanded empires without speaking a word. At 3:47 a.m., he stood in his penthouse office overlooking Seattle's waterfront, watching cargo ships move through Elliott Bay. Behind him, 3 of his lieutenants waited for orders. They'd learned his system, hand signals he'd developed, written notes on expensive paper, the particular tilt of his head that meant someone was about to die. But it was the small moments that destroyed him. The everyday interactions hearing people took for granted. Ordering food, making phone calls, being understood. For 8 years since taking over his father's organization at 20, Ji-hoon had built walls so high that no one saw the loneliness, the desperate, aching need to be heard without speaking. Tonight's meeting had gone well, a territorial dispute resolved, a new trafficking route established. Human trafficking of the worst kind that Ji-hoon was systematically dismantling from the inside, while everyone thought he was expanding it. His father's legacy was built on suffering. Ji-hoon's would be built on quietly saving people while maintaining the appearance of cruelty. Boss, his second-in-command Yoon-jae, Sung said in Korean, the shipment arrives Thursday. The girls from the Vladivostok route. He paused, watching Ji-hoon's face for reaction. 12 of them. Young. The buyers are all ready. Ji-hoon's hand came up, a sharp cutting gesture. He wrote on his tablet. Location? His handwriting was precise, controlled, like everything else about him. The warehouse in Tacoma. The buyers want to inspect merchandise Friday night. Change of plans, Ji-hoon wrote. I inspect first, alone. Thursday dawn. Jae-sung's expression flickered. Confusion, maybe suspicion, but he nodded. No one questioned the silent boss. Not after what happened to the last person who did. That man's body was found in pieces across 3 counties. What they didn't know was that man had been raping the women in their protection houses. Ji-hoon had made an example because some sins demanded visibility. After they left, Ji-hoon stood at the window and pressed his palm against the cold glass. Somewhere in this city, 12 women were being transported like cargo. By Friday, they'd be scattered to brothels and private collectors. Unless he could reroute them to the safe houses he'd been building. Unless his dual life didn't finally collapse under its own weight. His phone vibrated. A text from his younger sister, So-min, SEO, one of only 3 people who knew he could read lips and understand Korean Sign Language. Appa, you need to sleep. I can feel you brooding from my apartment. Ji-hoon smiled despite himself. Min Seo was studying law at University of Washington, determined to be nothing like their family. She didn't know the full extent of what he did, but she knew enough. Knew her college tuition came from blood money he was trying to wash clean. He texted back, can't sleep, too much work. Then go get coffee. That 24-hour place on Pike. Stop being a hermit. It's 4 a.m. Perfect, no crowds. No one to judge the scary mob boss for existing in public. Ji-hoon stared at the message. Min Seo was the only person who could tease him about his isolation. The only one who understood that his silence wasn't choice, it was survival. When he was 7, he'd witnessed his father torture a man to death. The screaming had lasted hours, and when it finally stopped, Ji-hoon's voice stopped too. Just gone, like his throat had closed around the horror and never reopened. 21 years later, that silence had become armor, power, mystery. But underneath, he was still that 7-year-old boy who wanted to scream and couldn't. Fine, he texted Min Seo. But if I get murdered by a barista, it's your fault. Baristas don't murder people. They just judge your drink order silently. Then I'm definitely getting murdered. The Moonlight Cafe was a small place tucked between a vintage bookstore and a closed tattoo parlor. Ji-hoon had passed it 1,000 times but never entered. Going into public spaces meant interaction. Interaction meant the painful pantomime of pointing at menus, the confusion in people's eyes, the inevitable, "Are you okay? Can you speak?" that made him feel like a circus act. But it was 4:23 a.m., and he was exhausted, and Monsieur was right. He needed to stop hiding. So he pushed through the door, and a small bell chimed above his head. The cafe was empty except for one person behind the counter. She was beautiful in a way that made Ji Hoon forget to breathe. Brown skin that seemed to glow under the warm cafe lights. Natural hair pulled back in a bun with a few curls escaping around her face. She wore a simple black t-shirt and jeans with a green apron. And when she looked up, her smile was automatic, professional, until their eyes met. Then something shifted. Her smile became real, reaching eyes that were warm and intelligent and curious. She said something. Chi? Hoon couldn't read her lips from this distance and gestured toward the counter welcomingly. He approached slowly, cataloging details the way he'd been trained. No wedding ring. Name tag that said Stacy in neat handwriting. Small tattoo on her left wrist that looked like music notes. Calluses on her fingers that suggested she played an instrument. And something else. A wariness in the way she held herself, like someone who'd learned to be careful. "Hi there," she said brightly, and Ji Hoon focused on her lips, catching the words. "Welcome to Moonlight. What can I get started for you?" This was the moment he hated. He pulled out his phone, typed quickly, "Black coffee, large." He turned the screen toward her. Stacy's smile didn't falter, but something changed in her eyes. Understanding, maybe, or pity. Ji-hoon braced for the usual response. The too loud speech, the exaggerated mouthing of words, the assumption that he was intellectually disabled because he couldn't speak. Instead, Stacy nodded, rang up the order, and said with careful enunciation so he could read her lips clearly, "Black coffee, large. That'll be $4.50. She paused, then added, "Do you want room for cream or filled to the top?" Ji-hoon blinked. She wasn't shouting, wasn't treating him like a child, just asking a normal question while making sure he could understand her. He typed, "Filled to top, thank you." "You got it." She turned to the coffee maker, and Ji-hoon found himself studying her movements. Efficient but not rushed. Graceful. She hummed while she worked. He could see her throat moving, and something about the normalcy of it made his chest ache. When she returned with his coffee, Stacy set it down carefully and said, "Here you go. Careful, it's hot." Then she hesitated, seeming to wrestle with something internal. Finally, she said, "I hope this isn't weird, but can I ask you something?" Ji-hoon tensed. Here it came. The invasive questions about why he couldn't talk. The medical inquiries, Stacy's hands moved. Fluid, deliberate, in perfect American Sign Language. "Do you know ASL? It might be easier than typing." The world stopped. Ji-hoon stared at her hands, then her face, then back to her hands. In 8 years of running a criminal empire, he'd faced guns, knives, betrayal, and death without flinching. But this casual offer of communication in a language he understood hit him like a physical blow. His hands moved before his brain caught up. "You sign?" Stacy's face lit up with genuine delight. "Yes, my little brother is deaf. I grew up signing." Then her expression turned concerned. "Are you mute or deaf? I should have asked first." "I'm sorry." "Mute," Ji-hoon signed, and something inside him cracked open. Since childhood. "I can hear and read lips, but..." He gestured to his throat, unable to finish. "That must be incredibly frustrating," Stacy signed, empathy clear in every movement, especially since most people don't sign. "Do you use ASL regularly, or is this rusty?" "Korean Sign Language mostly," Ji-hoon admitted. "My sister is hearing but fluent. She taught me ASL too, but I don't use it often. No one to talk to." Something shifted in Stacy's expression. Not pity, understanding. Like she recognized that particular kind of isolation. "Well, now you have someone to talk to. I'm Stacy, by the way." "Obviously." She gestured to her name tag with a self-deprecating smile. "Ji-hoon," he signed, then realized he'd used the Korean sign. He fingerspelled it instead. G-E-E-H-O-O-N. It's Korean. That's a beautiful name. What does it mean? Foundation of happiness. Ji-hoon's hands moved slowly. My mother was optimistic. Was? She died when I was 8. He didn't add that she'd been killed by one of his father's enemies, that he'd found her body, that her death had cemented his silence permanently. I'm so sorry. Stacy's signs were gentle. Then she seemed to shake herself. Listen, I know this is forward, but my shift ends in 20 minutes. If you want to stay and actually have a conversation, a real conversation with someone who can understand you, I'd love the company. No pressure, though. I know I'm being weird. Gee. Hoon should have said no, should have taken his coffee and disappeared back into the safe isolation of his penthouse. This woman was dangerous, not because of what she could do to him physically, but because of how she made him feel. Seen, heard, human. I'll stay, he signed, if that's okay. Stacy's smile could have powered the entire city. It's more than okay. Make yourself comfortable. I'll join you soon. Gee. Hoon sat in a corner booth, always facing the door, always watching exits, and sipped his coffee. It was good, better than good, and for the first time in years, he wasn't counting the minutes until he could leave a public space. He was counting the minutes until Stacy's shift ended. 19 minutes later, Stacy slid into the booth across from him, her own coffee in hand. She'd taken off her apron, revealing the full image on her T-shirt, Billie Holiday in mid-song. Up close, Hoon could see the tiny details he'd missed before. A small scar through her eyebrow, freckles across her nose, laugh lines around her eyes that suggested she smiled often, despite whatever wariness he'd sensed earlier. So, Stacy signed, tell me about yourself. What do you do? The question every criminal dreaded. Hoon had prepared answers, vague mentions of import-export, family business, investments. But something about Stacy's open expression, her genuine interest, made him want to be honest, or as honest as he could be without terrifying her. Family business, he signed. Import, export, logistics. Very boring. The way you hesitated before signing that tells me it's not boring at all. Stacy's eyes sparkled with amusement, but I get it. First conversation, you don't want to share your whole life story. Fair enough. She sipped her coffee. What do you do for fun? When you're not running your mysterious family business? Fun. Gee. Hoon tried to remember the last time he'd done something purely for enjoyment. Everything was strategy, survival, maintaining the dual life that was slowly consuming him. I don't really have fun, he admitted. Work is constant. Takes all my time. That's sad, Stacy signed with gentle frankness. Everyone needs something that makes them feel alive, something that's just for them. What about you? What makes you feel alive? Music. Her signs became animated, passionate. I'm a jazz singer. Well, trying to be. Right now I'm a barista who sings at open mics and prays for her big break. She laughed, the sound silent to him, but visible in how her shoulders shook. Super cliché, right? The struggling artist in Seattle. Not cliché. Brave. Hoon's signs were earnest. Most people don't chase their dreams. They settle for safety. Says the man who runs a family business instead of doing what he wants. Hoon froze. She'd seen through him in less than 30 minutes. Seen the resignation, the duty, the weight of obligations he couldn't escape. That's different, he signed weakly. Is it? Or do we both have cages? Yours just has better furniture. He should have been offended, should have shut down the conversation and left. Instead, Hoon found himself signing, my cage has very expensive furniture. Italian leather, imported marble. Still a cage, though. What would you do if you could escape? The question hung between them. No one had ever asked Hoon what he wanted. His entire life had been about duty. To family, to the organization, to the empire his father had built on bones and blood. What did Hoon want? I'd travel, he signed slowly, discovering the truth as his hands moved. See places where no one knows my family name, where I could just be a person, maybe learn to paint. My mother was an artist before everything. Before what? Before my father killed who she was and turned her into property. The signs were bitter, sharp. Sorry, that was dark. Dark doesn't scare me. Stacy's expression was serious now. My dad was a piece of shit too. Drank himself to death when I was 16. Before that, he made sure we all knew we were worthless. She paused. Some families are prisons disguised as homes. Yes, gee, Hoon felt something unlock in his chest. Exactly that. They talked for 2 hours. About Stacy's younger brother Marcus. Deaf since birth, now studying computer science at Gallaudet University in D.C. About her mother who worked 3 jobs to keep them fed after her father died. About Stacy's dreams of performing at major jazz festivals, of being heard, of mattering. And Hoon shared pieces of himself he'd never shown anyone. The art supplies hidden in his penthouse that he was too afraid to use. The way he still had nightmares about his mother's body. How his sister was the only thing keeping him human. Why can't you speak? Stacy asked finally gently. You don't have to answer. I'm just curious. Trauma, Hoon signed. Selective mutism. When I was 7, I saw something terrible. My brain decided silence was safer than words. The doctors said it might resolve with therapy, but he shrugged. My father didn't believe in therapy. Said I needed to be strong, not weak. Your father sounds like he sucked. He did. Hoon's signs were emphatic. He's dead now. I should be relieved. Mostly I'm just tired. Tired of what? Being him. Becoming him. Hoon's hands dropped to the table. Suddenly heavy. Sorry, this got heavy fast. You probably think I'm insane. I think you're lonely, Stacy signed. I think you're carrying weight that's crushing you. And I think this is the first time in a long time that anyone has actually listened to you. Am I right? Hoon looked at this stranger, this beautiful, perceptive stranger who'd offered him language and understanding without hesitation, and felt something dangerous bloom in his. Ace page 6, Machkun chest, hope maybe, or the beginning of love. He wasn't sure there was a difference. You're right, he signed, about all of it. Then let's make a deal. Stacy held out her hand for a shake. You help me with something I need, and I'll give you someone to talk to. A friend who sees you as a person, not a position. What do you need help with? I have an audition next week, a big one. Jazz club downtown is looking for a resident performer. It could change everything for me. Her signs became nervous. But I'm terrified. I could use a friend in the audience. Someone to sign, you've got this, when I start panicking. I'll be there. Hoon signed without hesitation. What day? Friday, 8 p.m., the Velvet Note on First Avenue. Friday, the same night the trafficked women would be inspected by buyers. The night Hoon was supposed to be overseeing the sale that would cement his reputation as ruthless as his father. The night that would either solidify his cover or expose his betrayal. I'll be there, he signed again, making a choice that could cost him everything, I promise. They exchanged numbers before parting. Stacy insisted, signing that she refused to lose contact with the first person she'd had a real conversation with in months. My friends are great, she explained, but they don't sign. It's exhausting translating myself constantly. I understand completely, Hoon had signed. Thank you for tonight, for seeing me. Thank you for trusting me enough to be seen. Now back in his penthouse as dawn broke over Seattle, Hoon stared at his phone. Stacy had texted, home safe. Thanks for keeping me company. I haven't had a conversation that good in forever. Sleep well, Hoon. I hope I spelled your name right in my head. He smiled, actually smiled, and typed back. You spelled it right. Thank you for talking to me. In my language. It meant more than you know. The response was immediate. Your language is beautiful. You're beautiful. Sorry, too forward. I'm bad at this. Ignore me. Hoon's heart did something complicated. No one had ever called him beautiful. Dangerous, yes. Intimidating, powerful, cold. But beautiful? That was new. Not too forward, he typed. Honest. I like honest. Good. Because I'm pathologically honest. It gets me in trouble. Fair warning. Noted. Get some sleep, Stacy. You too, mysterious family businessman. Sweet dreams. Hoon set down his phone and closed his eyes. For the first time in 8 years, sleep came easily, and he dreamed not of blood or violence or his father's ghost, but of brown eyes and shining hands and the possibility that maybe, just maybe, he could be more than the monster he'd been trained to become. Thursday morning arrived with rain and complications. Ji-hoon stood in his private office, reading the encrypted message from his contact in Vladivostok. The shipment had been delayed. The 12 women wouldn't arrive until Thursday night, barely giving him time to execute his plan before Friday's sail. Jae-sung entered without knocking, one of the few privileges of being second in command. "Boss, we have a problem. The girls are coming in hot. Border Patrol is watching the usual routes. We might have to delay the whole operation." Ji-hoon wrote quickly, "No delays. Buyers are expecting Friday delivery. We proceed as planned. That's risky. If we get caught, we won't." Ji-hoon's expression was ice. "Change the entry point. Bring them through the Canadian route. I'll handle logistics." Jae-sung studied him with barely concealed suspicion. "You've been different lately, boss. Distracted. Is everything okay?" "Everything is fine. Just tired of this particular operation." He met Jae-sung's eyes steadily. "The trafficking is becoming more trouble than it's worth. After this deal closes, I want to pivot to other revenue streams." "Other streams? Boss, human trafficking is 60% of our income. We can't just—" Ji-hoon's hand slammed down on the desk, a rare display of emotion that made Jae-sung step back instinctively. He wrote with sharp, angry strokes, "I'm not asking, I'm telling. This is my organization now. My decisions. If you have a problem with that, leave." "No problem, boss. No problem at all." Jae-sung bowed and retreated quickly. Alone again, Ji-hoon pressed his palms against his eyes. This was the tightrope he walked, maintaining enough cruelty to be believed while slowly dismantling everything his father had built. But it was getting harder to balance. Harder to remember which version of himself was real. His phone buzzed. "Stacy." Random thought. "Do you like jazz? I realized I invited you to a jazz audition without asking if you even like the genre. That would be awkward." The message was so normal, so removed from his current crisis, that Ji-hoon felt something in his chest loosen. He typed, "I've never been to a live jazz performance, but I'm looking forward to it." "Wait, seriously? Never? Oh man, you're in for a treat. Or a disappointment if I choke. No pressure on me at all." "You won't choke. You're too brave for that. How do you know?" "We've talked once. I'm very good at reading people. It's a survival skill." He paused, then added, "You face the world as a black woman in a city that doesn't always see you. You learn sign language to communicate with your brother when it would have been easier not to. You pursue impossible dreams while working graveyard shifts at a cafe. You're brave in ways most people never manage." The response took longer this time. When it came, it was just, "Thank you. I needed to hear that today. You're pretty perceptive for a mysterious businessman." "I have my moments. Want to grab lunch today? I'm off at noon. We could actually eat food instead of just drinking coffee at 4 a.m. like vampires." Ji-hoon looked at his calendar. He had a meeting with weapons suppliers at 1 p.m., a call with his accountant at 3, and surveillance to plan for the Thursday night shipment. Every logical bone in his body said no. "Yes," he typed. "Where? Pike Place Market? I know a great PHO place. They have signs with pictures, so ordering is easy." "Perfect. I'll meet you there at noon. It's a date, not a date, a friend date. A lunch between two people who happen to bond over sign language." "Okay, I'm going to stop texting now before I make this weirder." Ji-hoon smiled at his phone like an idiot. "See you at noon, Stacy." Pike Place Market was chaos. Tourists and locals crowding the narrow aisles. Vendors shouting. Fish flying through the air at the famous fish market. Ji-hoon normally avoided places like this. Too many people. Too much noise he couldn't participate in. Too many opportunities for misunderstanding. But Stacy had suggested it, and he found himself willing to brave discomfort for another hour of her company. She was waiting by the bronze pig statue, wearing a yellow sundress that made her skin glow and high-top Converse that suggested she valued comfort over fashion. When she saw him, her face lit up with that genuine smile that was becoming dangerously addictive. "You came!" She signed enthusiastically. "I was worried you'd get scared off by my excessive texting this morning." "Your texting was fine, G." Hoon signed back. He changed from his usual black suits to dark jeans and a button-down, an attempt at casual that felt foreign. "I'm the one who should worry about scaring you off." "Why would you scare me? I'm not good with people. Socially. This is strange for me." "Well, you're doing great so far." Stacy linked her arm through his naturally, like they'd known each other for years instead of days. "Come on, let's get food before the lunch rush destroys us." The Piego restaurant was tucked in a corner of the market, small and steamy and smelling incredible. True to Stacy's word, they had a picture menu. The owner, an elderly Vietnamese woman, smiled warmly at them and said something Ji Hoon couldn't catch. Stacy signed. She said we're a beautiful couple. I tried to explain we're just friends, but I don't think she believed me. Does that bother you? People assuming? Should it? Stacy's eyes held his, something complicated flickering in them. I guess it depends on whether you're dating anyone. Are you? No. You? Nope. Single and apparently destined to stay that way according to my mother, who thinks I'm too picky. Are you? Too picky? I don't think wanting someone who sees me as a whole person is being picky. Stacy's signs were thoughtful. My last boyfriend was... He said he loved me, but what he loved was the idea of me, the strong black woman who could handle anything. He didn't love the real me, the one who has panic attacks before performances and cries during Pixar movies, and sometimes feels like she's failing at everything. He was an idiot, Ji Hoon signed firmly. The real you is the only version worth loving. Stacy stared at him, something vulnerable and hopeful crossing her face. You don't even know the real me. We've talked twice. I know you're kind to strangers. I know you light up when you talk about music. I know you see people, really see them, instead of what you expect to see. His signs slowed, became more deliberate. I know that when you signed to me, you didn't do it for praise or recognition. You did it because it was the right thing to do. That tells me everything I need to know. Ji Hoon. Stacy reached across the table, taking his hand. You're dangerous, you know that. I've been told. He didn't pull his hand away. Her palm was warm, calloused from guitar strings. But not in this context. Why am I dangerous to you? Because you make me want to believe in things I gave up on. Like connection. Like being understood. Like maybe there's someone out there who won't ask me to be smaller or quieter or less complicated. I would never ask that, Ji Hoon signed with his free hand. Your complications are what make you interesting. Order ready, the owner called out, breaking the moment. They ate in comfortable silence, Stacy occasionally signing observations about the other customers or funny memories of bringing Marcus to this same restaurant when they were younger. He must be important to you, Ji Hoon signed. Your brother. The way you talk about him, he's my best friend. Stacy's signs were tender. When my dad was drinking, when mom was working, when the world felt too big and cruel, Marcus was there. We had our own language, our own world. He's why I never gave up on music. He said if I could sing, I had to, for both of us. Does he sing? In his way. He feels the vibrations, moves to them, says music is just another kind of sign language. She smiled. You'd like him. He's studying cybersecurity, wants to protect deaf people from online scams that target them specifically. He sounds remarkable, like his sister. Stacy blushed, actually blushed, and Ji Hoon felt absurdly proud of causing that reaction. Stop being charming. I'm trying to maintain professional distance here. Why? We're not working together. We're just two people who what? Stacy signed. What are we, Ji Hoon? The question hung between them. Ji Hoon thought about his father, about the organization, about the 12 women who would arrive tonight and the buyers expecting them tomorrow, about the life he'd built on lies and violence, about the impossibility of offering this beautiful, honest woman anything real. Friends, he signed finally. We're friends. If that's okay with you. Something flickered across Stacy's face. Disappointment, maybe, or relief. Friends is good. Friends is safe. I like safe. Do you? Ji-hoon studied her, because everything about you suggests you like risk. The music, the dreams, the way you approached a stranger in your cafe and offered him language. That's different. That's calculated risk, controlled danger. And what would uncontrolled danger look like? Falling for someone completely wrong for me? Stacy's signs were slow, careful. Someone with secrets. Someone whose life doesn't make sense with mine. Someone who could break my heart without even trying. Ji-hoon's chest tightened. That sounds terrifying. It is. Her eyes locked with his. Absolutely terrifying. They stared at each other across the small table, the air thick with things unsaid. Around them, the market buzzed with life, people laughing, vendors calling, the ordinary chaos of a Thursday afternoon. But in their small bubble, there was only silence and sign language, and the dangerous understanding that they were both teetering on the edge of something that could destroy them. Finally, Stacy broke eye contact, checking her phone. I have to go. Rehearsal for tomorrow night. But, she hesitated. Text me? Even if it's random. Even if it's just to say hi. I like hearing from you. I'll text you, Ji-hoon promised. Break a leg tomorrow. Not literally, thanks. She squeezed his hand once more, then stood. But before leaving, she turned back and signed. Ji-hoon, whatever secrets you're carrying, I hope someday you trust me enough to share them, because you don't have to be alone. She left before he could respond, disappearing into the crowd. Ji-hoon sat alone with cold foe and a heart that felt too big for his chest. He pulled out his phone and texted his contact at the Safe House Network. Friday night operation is go. 12 packages need immediate relocation after inspection. Have transport ready. Then he texted his sister. I think I'm in trouble. Minseo's response was immediate. What kind of trouble? The family business kind or the personal kind? Both, maybe. I don't know. I met someone. What? Oppa, you haven't been interested in anyone since high school. Who is she? When can I meet her? Does she know about? No, she doesn't know. And she can't. Ever. Then what are you doing? You can't have a relationship built on lies. I'm not having a relationship. We're just friends. Friends don't make you text your sister about being in trouble. What's her name? Stacy. She's a jazz singer. A barista. She signs. He paused, then added, she sees me. SEO. Really sees me. Then you need to let her see all of you. Or let her go. It's not fair otherwise, I know. I'm working on an exit. From everything. Just give me time. Time is the one thing our family never has enough of. Be careful, Appa. Please. Thursday night came too fast. At 11:47 p.m., Ji-hoon stood in the abandoned warehouse in Tacoma, watching his men unload a shipping container. He'd sent most of his security away, just him and two trusted operatives who'd been with him since the beginning, who understood what he was really doing. The container doors opened and 12 women stumbled out, young, terrified, some crying, others blank-faced with trauma. They ranged in age from maybe 16 to mid-20s, all Eastern European, Russian, Ukrainian, Georgian, promised jobs in America, delivered into hell. Ji-hoon's hands moved in careful gestures his men understood. Calm them. Food and water. Medical attention if needed. They're safe now. One of the women, older, maybe 25, with defiant eyes despite her fear, said something in Russian. Ji-hoon's operative, Dmitri, translated, she wants to know if we're going to kill them. Ji-hoon pulled out his phone, typed into a translation app. No one is going to hurt you. You're safe. Tomorrow, buyers will come to inspect you. After they leave, you'll be moved to a safe house. New identities, asylum assistance. You're not being trafficked. You're being saved, Dmitri translated. The woman stared at Ji-hoon with naked suspicion. Why should we believe you? Because if I wanted to traffic you, I wouldn't be telling you about it. Ji-hoon typed, I'm risking everything to get you out. Please trust me, just for 24 more hours. The women huddled together, whispering. Finally, the defiant one nodded. We trust you, for now. Ji-hoon spent the next 3 hours making sure they were fed, given clean clothes, provided with sleeping bags and basic dignity. His phone buzzed repeatedly. Jay sung, demanding updates, buyers confirming Friday's inspection time, various lieutenants checking in. He ignored most of them. At 2:34 a.m., Stacy texted, "Can't sleep. Too nervous about tomorrow. Tell me something good?" G. Hoon looked around the warehouse, at women sleeping fitfully after narrowly escaping horror, at the organization he was systematically betraying, at the blood on his hands from years of violence, and typed, "I'm looking forward to hearing you sing. That's sweet, but I meant something good about you. Tell me a happy memory." Gee, Hoon thought about his childhood. Most memories were tainted with violence or fear. But there was one. My mother teaching me to mix colors. I was 6. She said art was the only real language because it didn't need words. Just feeling. That's beautiful. Do you still paint? No. I stopped after she died. Haven't picked up a brush in 21 years. That's heartbreaking. Your mom wouldn't want that. Art is expression. You need expression more than anyone I've met. Maybe, someday, soon. Promise me. When Friday night is over, when I've either nailed or bombed this audition, we're going to an art store. You're going to buy supplies, and you're going to paint something. Deal? Gee, Hoon smiled despite the grimness of his surroundings. Deal. Now get some sleep. You need to be brilliant tomorrow. I'll try. Good night, G. Hoon, thanks for existing. Good night, Stacy. Thanks for reminding me how to. Friday arrived in a blur of final preparations. The buyers would arrive at 7 p.m. Wealthy men from across the country, some legitimate businessmen, others career criminals. They'd inspect the merchandise, negotiate prices, arrange for delivery. And then, after they left, Ji Hoon would load all 12 women into unmarked vans and send them to the Safe House network. If everything went perfectly, if no one suspected, if his years of building credibility as someone as ruthless as his father held up under scrutiny. At 6:30 p.m., dressed in his standard black suit, Ji Hoon stood in his penthouse bathroom and stared at his reflection. He looked like his father. Same sharp features, same cold eyes, same expressions that said he felt nothing. But underneath, he was falling apart. His phone buzzed. "Stacy, 30 minutes until showtime. I'm freaking out. Are you on your way?" Ji Hoon closed his eyes. He had to be at the warehouse by 7. Had to oversee the inspection, had to maintain his cover long enough to get those women to safety. He couldn't be in 2 places at once, but he'd made a promise. And Stacy, brave, beautiful Stacy, who'd given him language and humanity and hope, deserved better than broken promises. He texted Dimitri, "Handle the buyers. Tell them I'm delayed by federal investigation into our shipping routes. Keep them calm. I'll be there by 9 p.m. Dimitri, "Boss, that's risky. What if they get suspicious? Make them not suspicious. That's what I pay you for." Then he texted Stacy, "On my way. You're going to be amazing." He arrived at the Velvet Note at 7:53 p.m. The club was intimate, all exposed brick and dim lighting, and tables crowded with people who looked like they understood jazz. The stage was small but professional, equipped with quality sound equipment that Ji Hoon couldn't fully appreciate, but recognized as expensive. Stacy was waiting backstage, pacing, when he found her. She was wearing a green dress that hugged her curves perfectly, her hair loose and wild around her shoulders, her makeup subtle but striking. She looked like music personified. "You came," she signed, relief flooding her features. "I was so afraid you'd—" "I promised. Ji." Hoon signed back. "I keep my promises." Stacy threw her arms around him, and Ji Hoon stood frozen for a moment before awkwardly returning the embrace. She was warm and solid and real, and she smelled like cocoa butter and nervousness. "I'm so scared," she signed when she pulled back. "What if I forget the words? What if my voice cracks? What if they hate me? They won't. Gee." Hoon cupped her face gently. "You're extraordinary, and even if you were terrible, which you won't be, I'd still think you were perfect. That's the least objective assessment ever. I don't need objectivity. I need truth. And the truth is, you're going to walk out there and remind everyone why music matters." Stacy took a shaky breath, then nodded. "Okay, Okay, I can do this. She straightened her dress, checked her makeup. You'll be out there? Where I can see you. Front row center. I won't take my eyes off you. She kissed his cheek quickly, impulsively, then signed. That's for luck. Not romantic. Just friendly luck. Of course, G. Hoon signed, his cheek burning where her lips had touched. Purely friendly. The lights dimmed, the crowd quieted, and Stacy walked onto that stage like she'd been born for it. G. Hoon took his seat in the front row, hyper aware of his phone vibrating in his pocket with increasingly urgent messages from Dmitri. He ignored them all. Stacy approached the microphone, and for a moment, she just stood there. Ji-hoon could see her hands trembling, could see the panic starting to take over. He signed big, clear movements. Breathe. You've got this. I'm right here. Her eyes found his in the crowd. Something in her expression steadied, and then she began to sing. Ji-hoon couldn't hear the music, but he could see it, in the way every person in the room leaned forward, captivated, in how the band behind her seemed to move in perfect synchronization with her body, in the expressions on people's faces, transported, moved, utterly spellbound. He watched Stacy transform. On stage, she wasn't the nervous barista or the struggling artist. She was power and grace and raw emotion made visible. Her hands moved expressively as she sang, almost like signing. Her eyes closed during the emotional high points, opened during the tender moments. She commanded that stage like a queen. The song ended to thunderous applause that Ji-hoon couldn't hear but felt through the floor. Stacy looked at him immediately and he signed, "Perfect. You were perfect." She sang 4 more songs, each one better than the last. Each one proving what Ji-hoon had known from the moment he met her. Stacy was meant for this, born for this. She belonged on stages, being heard, mattering. When the set ended, people swarmed her immediately. The club owner, audience members, musicians from the band, all wanting to talk, to congratulate, to connect with whatever magic she'd created. Ji-hoon slipped out the back, checking his phone. 23 missed calls. 14 texts, all from Dmitri, escalating from calm updates to barely controlled panic. The last one. Boss, buyers are getting suspicious. One of them speaks Russian. Overheard the women talking about being saved. We have maybe 10 minutes before this explodes. Where the fuck are you? Ice flooded Ji-hoon's veins. Everything was falling apart. All his careful planning, all his months of positioning, unraveling because he'd chosen love over duty. He sprinted to his car, texting, "On my way. Keep everyone calm. Use force if necessary." He was pulling out of the parking lot when Stacy appeared, running after him, waving her arms. Ji-hoon stopped, rolled down the window. She was breathless, glowing, beautiful. "Where are you going? The owner wants to offer me the position. I did it. She stopped, reading his expression. "What's wrong?" "Emergency. Work. I'm sorry. I have to go." "Now?" "But we were going to celebrate. You promised." "I know, I'm sorry. I'll call you later." He couldn't look at her face, couldn't see the disappointment and confusion there. "I'm really proud of you, Stacy. You were incredible." "Ji-hoon, wait." But he was already driving away, watching her in his rearview mirror getting smaller, watching the best thing in his life disappear while he raced toward the worst. Ji-hoon arrived at the warehouse at 8:47 p.m. to chaos. 3 of the buyers were holding Dmitri at gunpoint. The women were huddled in a corner, one of them bleeding from a head wound. And Jae-sung stood in the center of it all, arms crossed, expression thunderous. "What is this?" Jae-sung signed sharply. He'd learned Ji-hoon's system of communication years ago. "What the hell have you been doing? These men say the merchandise was talking about escape, about being saved, about you betraying the organization." Hoon's mind raced. He could kill everyone in this room, had the skills, the backup, the weapons, but that would mean becoming exactly what his father was, exactly what he'd been fighting against. He pulled out his phone, typed, "Yes, I've been saving them. I've been saving every shipment for the past 6 months, rerouting them to safe houses. Your trafficking network is dead, has been for half a year. You just didn't know it." The silence was deafening. Then everyone started moving at once. Buyers reaching for weapons, Jae-sung lunging forward, Dmitri breaking free. Gee! Hoon moved faster, his body remembering every brutal lesson his father had taught. The fight was quick and vicious. Ji-hoon had always been the best fighter in the organization, the only thing his father had praised him for. Within 90 seconds, two buyers were unconscious. One was fleeing, and Jae-sung was on the ground with Ji-hoon's gun pressed to his temple. "I'm dissolving the organization," Ji-hoon typed with one hand while keeping the gun steady with the other. Effective immediately. Trafficking ends, protection rackets end. Everything built on suffering ends. We go legitimate or we go to war. Choose. Jae-sung laughed, blood on his teeth. "You think you can just walk away? Your father's people will hunt you. The other families will see you as weak. You'll be dead in a month. Then I'll be dead knowing I tried to be better than him, knowing I saved someone instead of destroying them. For what? For some girl you barely know? Is that what this is about? You're throwing away an empire for pussy?" Ji-hoon's finger tightened on the trigger. It would be so easy. One bullet and Jae-sung's poison would be gone, but that would make him a murderer again, would make him exactly what Stacy could never love. He lowered the gun. "Get out. Tell the families what I've done. Tell them so Ji-hoon is out. Anyone who wants to challenge that can come find me. I'll be waiting." Jae-sung stared at him with something like pity. "You're a dead man, boss. You just don't know it yet. I've been dead since I was 7. At least now I get to choose how I die." After they left, the buyers, Jae-sung, everyone except Dmitri and the women, Ji-hoon sat on the warehouse floor and put his head in his hands. Everything he'd built, everything he'd carefully maintained, gone in one night. He was now a target for every organization that had respected his father's legacy, a traitor to the criminal world he'd been born into. "Boss," Dmitri said quietly, "the vans are here. We need to move the women." Ji-hoon nodded, standing, watched as all 12 women were loaded into vehicles that would take them to safety. The defiant one paused before getting in, looked at him, and said in broken English, "Thank you. You? Good man." Ji-hoon signed your welcome, knowing she wouldn't understand. But Dmitri translated, and she smiled. A real smile, full of hope, before disappearing into the van. Alone in the empty warehouse, Ji-hoon finally checked his phone. 5 missed calls from Stacy, 3 texts. "Are you okay? I'm worried. Seriously, just tell me you're alive. I'm going to assume you're fine and just busy, but we need to talk about you running out like that." He started to text back, then stopped. What could he say? How could he explain that he'd just destroyed his entire life for principles she didn't even know he had? That he was now a marked man? That loving him would put her in danger she couldn't imagine? "I'm sorry," he finally typed, "for leaving, for everything. You deserve better than someone like me." The response was immediate. "Don't I get to decide what I deserve? Come to my apartment. Let's talk face to face. Please, G." Who knew he should disappear, should protect her by cutting all contact. But he'd been pretending to be someone else for so long that the idea of being honest with someone, with her, was intoxicating. "Send me your address," he typed. "I'm coming." Stacy's apartment was in Capitol Hill, a tiny one-bedroom filled with plants, records, and posters of jazz legends. She opened the door still in her performance dress, makeup slightly smudged, eyes concerned. "Are you okay?" she signed immediately. "You look... God, gee. Hoon, you're bleeding." He looked down at his shirt, noticing for the first time the blood, not his, from the fight. "It's not mine. I'm fine. You're not fine. Come inside." She pulled him through the door, into the bathroom, made him sit on the edge of the tub while she got a washcloth. Her hands were gentle as she cleaned his face. His hands. What happened? "Please don't lie to me." "Gee." Hoon looked into her eyes, warm, worried, open, and made a choice. "I need to tell you something about who I am, what I do, and after I tell you, you're going to ask me to leave. But I need you to know the truth, okay?" Stacy set down the washcloth, signed carefully. "Whatever it is, just tell me. Honest, remember? I run a criminal organization. My father was the head of the Korean Mafia in Seattle. When he died, I took over. For 8 years, I've been involved in trafficking, protection rackets, gambling, smuggling. Everything you've been told to fear about men like me, I've done it. Stacy's face went carefully blank. She stepped back, creating distance. Gee, Hoon felt something inside him tear. But, he continued, for the past 6 months, I've been dismantling it, saving the trafficking victims, redirecting resources, trying to go legitimate. Tonight, I finally came clean, told my organization I was out, which means I'm now a target for everyone who wants revenge or sees me as weak. Stacy just stared at him. Then her hands moved slowly. So when you said family business, I meant crime family. Yes. And tonight, the emergency that made you run? Saving 12 women from being trafficked and destroying my entire life in the process. Jesus Christ. Stacy sat on the closed toilet seat, mind clearly reeling. This is insane. You're telling me you're a mob boss? Was. As of tonight, I'm just a dead man walking. Every organization in the Pacific Northwest will be hunting me. I shouldn't have come here. I'm putting you in danger just by... Shut up. Stacy stood, moved back to him, cupped his face in her hands. Just shut up for a second and let me think. They stayed like that, her hands on his face, his eyes searching hers for disgust or fear. He found neither. Instead, he saw her processing, sorting, deciding. Finally, she signed. You saved those women tonight. You risked everything to save them. Yes, and you've been doing this for months, secretly, at huge personal risk. Yes. Why? Why risk everything? Because I'm tired of being my father. Because I wanted to be someone who could look at themselves in the mirror. Because... He stopped, unable to finish. Because what? Because I wanted to be someone worthy of you. Stacy's eyes widened. Then she laughed, a slightly hysterical sound. That's the most fucked up romantic thing I've ever heard. You destroyed your life to impress a girl you met a week ago? Not just to impress you, but knowing you, seeing how you live with such integrity, it made me want to be better, made me believe I could be. Gee, Hoon, Stacy's hands dropped to his shoulders. You're in danger, real danger, the kind that gets people killed. I know, which is why I'm leaving Seattle. Tonight. I have safe houses, resources, people who'll help me disappear. I just needed to see you first, to explain, to apologize for lying. Where will you go? Somewhere far. Somewhere they won't find me, at least not quickly. Alone? Gee, Hoon froze. What? Are you going alone? Stacy's signs were steady, certain. Because I just got offered my dream job. I just proved I can make it as a singer. And I'm about to do something absolutely crazy. Stacy, no. You can't. Can't what? Can't choose my own life? Can't decide that a man who literally dismantled a criminal empire because he wanted to be better might be worth taking a risk on. This isn't a romance novel. It's dangerous. You could die. We're all going to die eventually. Question is whether we live first. She took his hands, held them tightly. Gee. Hoon, in 1 week, you've shown me more honesty, more vulnerability, more real connection than I've had in years. You learned my language. You saw me. You made me feel less alone. That doesn't mean you should throw your life away. I'm not throwing it away. I'm choosing something different, something real. Her signs were fierce. So I'm asking you, do you want company? Because I'm a pretty good singer, I make excellent coffee, and I'm fluent in both ASL and crazy decisions. Ji-hoon stared at her, this impossible woman who was offering to leave everything. They left Seattle at 2:37 a.m. in a car Ji-hoon had kept registered under a fake name. Stacy packed one bag, clothes, photos of her family, her brother's college graduation program. She left a note for her mother, vague but reassuring, called her boss to quit, texted her friends that she was taking an opportunity out of state. Is this real? She asked as they drove south on I-5, signing while Ji-hoon watched the road. Are we really doing this? Yes, he signed back with one hand. Does that scare you? Terrifies me. But I haven't felt this alive in years. They drove through the night, stopping only for gas and coffee. By dawn, they were in Oregon. By noon, Northern California. By evening, they ditched the car and bought a used truck with cash. Ji-hoon had accounts and fake names, resources hidden for exactly this contingency. They ended up in a small town in Montana that winter, renting a cabin under false names. Ji-hoon grew a beard, started painting again. Landscapes at first, then portraits of Stacy. She performed at local bars, building a new following, living a smaller dream but living it authentically. Min Seo visited once, furious and relieved. You left everything, she signed to her brother. For her, for principle, for yourself. Yes, Ji-hoon signed back. Do you hate me? I'm proud of you. She hugged him tightly. Mom would be too. Jae-sung never came. Ji-hoon learned later that the organization had fractured after his departure, various lieutenants fighting for control. His father's empire had collapsed, and while some people were looking for him, no one looked very hard. Dead men weren't worth the effort. 2 years later, Stacy performed at a jazz festival in Vancouver, a small one but legitimate. Ji-hoon stood in the crowd, watching her own that stage, and signed to her across the distance, I love you. She saw him, smiled, and signed back mid-song without missing a beat. I know. I love you too, you crazy man. That night, in their small apartment above a bookstore, Ji-hoon painted while Stacy practiced new songs. They'd built a life from the ruins of their old ones. Not perfect. They still looked over their shoulders, still worried about the past catching up. But real, honest, theirs. Do you regret it? Stacy signed as they lay in bed, her head on his chest. Giving up everything? I didn't give up everything, Ji-hoon signed. I gained you, gained freedom, gained a life worth living instead of just surviving. That's very poetic for a former mob boss. I had a good teacher. He kissed her forehead. You taught me that communication isn't about sound. It's about intention, about wanting to understand someone badly enough to meet them where they are. You did that from the first moment. That day in the cafe, when you couldn't order coffee, when I asked you in sign language. You changed my life, Ji-hoon signed, with one question, one gesture of humanity. Everything after that, the escape, the redemption, the love, all started because you bothered to learn my language. Our language, Stacy corrected. It's ours now. Our world, our rules, our story. Our story, he agreed. The mute mob boss and the jazz singer. Sounds like a bad romance novel. The best ones always do. And there, in that small apartment in a town where no one knew their names or their history, two people who'd found each other across impossible distances built a future with their hands, speaking in silence, loving without sound, proving that the most powerful language is the one we choose to learn for someone else.